G'day guys and welcome to the Total War podcast. It's been like forever since the last video, and today I'm joined by Coldmeat247,
Hey, what's up?
SurrealBeliefs,
Hey, it's me.
and Saphirephoenix.
Hello.
And Diplex might randomly jump in, so if you hear him jump in, he'll be there. So today we're talking about the DLC of Rome Total War 2 and what we all would like to see and what we expect, and if we all agree with Creative Assembly's DLC model. I think we'll start off by talking about that for starters, if we all agree with how they do DLC and how it's been done in the past in comparison to other video games, if you guys want to make any comparisons. So I think we'll start off with you, Coldmeat. What do you think about the DLC model they use for Total War?
And their whole business model and what they're gonna do with
like
Rome
with
2.
How they do their DLC and everything. Yeah.
I gotta say, I've been playing. We're all been playing Total War since almost the beginning of the series. When they started with, let's say, medieval, and then medieval Shogun, and then medieval. I'm coming back to it. Sorry, but Empire, Napoleon, everything was great. Everything was great. The DLC that were released or the extra packs that were released actually contained something, so that it's fine. With Shogun 2, man, did I get disappointed with Shogun 2. I'm sorry, but Shogun 2 is an $150 game if you buy all the DLCs, including Fall of the Samurai. If you buy the full Shogun 2, if it's not on deal, it's an $150. That is expensive, but I'll come back to that. Rome 2, they'll be doing the same thing. So they're giving us a game at $60. And then we start with a first pack that is free. If you pre-ordered Rome 2, the first Greek pack is free. So that's awesome because we get Athens, Epirus, and Sparta. So that's good because it's free if you pre-order. Apparently this pack will be $7.50. That we're talking about Canadian or American dollar. $7.50 for this pack. Still not too expensive for three factions, right? There's a lot of gameplay right there for $7.50. We have a free DLC coming up with the Seleucids. Great. A free DLC. Yes. More of that, please.
Yes.
But I'm scared that they're going to be coming up now with a DLC for blood, DLCs for all the small stuff they actually done in Shogun 2. DLCs for special units. Also, they did that in Napoleon. So I'm actually thinking that maybe this game of Rome 2 the first thing, we're not going to get the full game before at least a year because they'll be releasing DLCs for a year, at least. This is probably going to cost around $150 also if we get it all together, I'm in a point, it's expensive for most players, it's expensive. It's an expensive game. But for me, I don't really care paying $150 because if you think about it, 20 or 30 years ago, we used to buy Nintendo cartridges or games at $60 or $70. And at this point, I think the games should be at least $100, at least. They didn't take, the inflation. Nothing happened. The games all the games stay the same price.
Yeah.
Right. They're still not expensive. So that's why companies are looking for ways to actually make more money on their games. The fact that they don't release a full game right away, they just release DLCs and add to it, they finally get the right price for their game.
No,
so
yeah, for sure. No, I just got to say there though, I kind of don't 100% agree with how it's like on the CD. I'll come to that in a second about Shogun, but you made a really good point there that it's really rare that people ever remember the fact that CA is a business. They need to make money off their games. People just think that they wake up and they make Total War just to make people happy. They need to make money, they need to pay all their people. But the whole thing about Shogun, the one thing I disagreed with it was that the fact that all the DLC was on the game, I think other than Fall of the Samurai and Rise of the Samurai, it was already there. So when you bought it, it just unlocked it. Just like how when you preload the game now, it gives you the entire thing other than that little activation code which it gives it to you when the game releases on Steam. So that's the only thing I kind of disagree with. It's kind of like it's there and you're paying for it to unlock on something you've already paid for. But that's my thoughts on it. What about you, Saf? What do you think about how they do their DLC and promote it and everything.
Pretty much agree with what Coldmeat has said. Really, to be honest, actually, I think he's covered all the main points. I don't really know what else there is to add.
Yeah.
I, I don't really know what else to add.
No, yeah, good.
He's covered it all.
He
for
did.
me,
I
to
know
be
he
honest.
did a really good
Yeah.
answer for that. What do I use, Cyril?
Yes. Well, let's see. First off, I would like to add that their PR has gotten much better in these last few years. And I really have no problems with DLC. If they're going to make a good game that as a base game is good and they want me to pay for these little pieces here and there, well, that just extends the life of that said game. And he brought up a really good point that I have thought on too, on how the price of games has not really changed that much. And I feel as though if you have a job or if you just have the extra cash, then really this little bit of DLC is not that much. I mean, if you're playing a Total War game, most fans are really strong fans and they will pay for whatever comes out. Now, to go on your point on how you were saying how it seems like it's not as unfair that we have to pay more when the content is already on that disc. I can see your point of view there, and I could see like why that would bother some people. Yet me, it just doesn't really phase that much. I mean, the Total War stuff here, they're the only game of its kind that it's really done very well, and they could have gotten really lazy in these last few years, and they kind of did once, and we know how that went out with Empire Total War. I mean, that was a huge deal, and so I mean, they have actually made each game better for the most part. Now, just to be a bit of a cynical guy, which I am, I will say that the DLC is not free. That's just a very nice PR term. It's like, hey, we're giving this to you for free, but no, that is added into the total cost. When they sat back and they made this here, they probably said like, hey, let's just add it on as free DLC, and so they're just going to be able to charge for it afterwards, because I'm sure many of us know that these groups here need to make as much money as they can, even before the game is out. But I mean, outside of that, yeah, I think every corner has been covered there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think there was a quote, and I'll try to find the link for the people who are watching, by one of the CA. It may have been Jack, the Jack Luster dude.
Yeah.
It may have been him, but I don't want to say that for certain. But someone asked him about the Blood Pack, and I think the actual quote was, "It would be silly if we didn't," about the Blood Pack DLC. I think that was the actual quote. So I mean, most of us are assuming they'll bring back the Blood Pack. The reason for it in Shogun was because of the rating.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the UK's rating, but I think it had to do with the UK rating system there. About how it would affect that if they had released it like that. Because I mean, Shogun, the original Shogun, and is MA here, and so is now it prevents a lot of people from playing it. But yeah, I think we covered most of the stuff about the DLC and everything, and I think we'll move on to the DLC that has been announced, and what you guys are excited about, what the ones that have been announced, and then you guys can just list off the things you would like to see. So I'll just do a quick rundown of what has been announced as DLC. It's Pontus, so the Seleucids, and the Nomadic Tribes pack. Now, I'm probably going to butcher these names, but it's the Scythians, the Roxolani, I think, and they are. Anyone want to take a crack at that last name there? If you guys,
I can't see it. Where is it?
it's just down here, so I'll put it into the Skype
The
chat quickly. So you guys,
Mastigatai.
yeah,
That's my
Anyone
best bet. That's it.
Massigatai, yeah.
That's a guitar, yeah,
Massageti.
my guess.
Yeah, so maybe I should have done a bit more research on that. I haven't really looked at the other two. I know people know who the Scythians are, I mean, in most part. And it's going to be interesting for that. So I think we'll start off with Cyril, since you were last time.
Sure.
Out of those ones that I've listed, who are you most excited about as DLC to players?
Honestly, it's really hard for me to say that I feel any sort of hype, and that's only because I don't know their past very well. If you do a faction vote and you ask people like, hey, who do you want to see me play? More likely than not, they're going to vote for Rome and Sparta 2. And I can't really blame them too much because those are the two nations or city-states or whatever that are really known very well. So I'm actually very happy they are bringing out these tribes, these nations that people don't really know of, because they may not want to play it at first, but over time they're going to be like, hey, what is this? And they'll check them out and they'll be able to learn about a new type of people, which is pretty neat. As far as DLC that I would like to see, I think really what I would like to just jump to is the fall of Rome, and well, not really that far, but just, I mean, I guess a later point in there. I don't know when the game will end, but I would like to see like more towards the fall of Rome too. But that's about it.
I think it's around 70 AD, because I think the game starts in 240.
Wow. Okay.
So there's still a hell of a long time of Rome's dominance like throughout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I think a lot of people would want to see another barbarian invasion. I think it's probably one of the biggest things people were probably asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Coldmeat?
By the way, the Roman Empire, everything was finished on 476. By the way, after Christ.
Yeah. Unless you count the Byzantines, but yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So what I want to see, the thing is, I am playing Total War. You guys, Surreal mentioned, some historical parts of this. I'm playing Total War for the pleasure of it, not to be really. I'm not an history buff or anything. I know a lot of you guys really like the historical part of Total War.
Mm-hmm.
I'm into it, but I play for the game. I play for the game. I don't care if I like learning little bits about it. That's fine. And I think if we're gonna come back to the DLCs that they're releasing, I think it's really cool to being able to maybe play a faction that you would not even think about because maybe you don't know the history of that time. So that's kind of nice. And they probably choose those factions for good reasons, probably because they had special troops, they had good history, or something happened. But for myself, having like 16 barbarian nations, I don't really care. You can give me just 6 or 8, I'll be really happy with them. And then so far, your question was about the DLC and what's coming up. I think so far it's good content. I mean, one of them is free when the game's released. That's really good. We get the Greek pack is really awesome. I gotta say, everybody loves Spartans, I guess. That's why, like Surreal say, that's what most people will vote for if you ask them to do, a Total War campaign, a Rome 2 Total War campaign. What do you guys want to see? Most people will ask you Spartans, for sure, or Romans, because that's the vision of the Romans we got in the last, 10 years or something. With the movie 300, we saw Spartans. And then if you're watching maybe like Spartacus, that's Romans. If you're watching... there's other Rome series that they're not coming up to me, but there's a lot of Rome series, including Spartacus. We've been seeing a lot of Romans, and we haven't seen a lot of barbarians, or other people around. I guess it's a lot because of TV and movies and stuff like that people want to see Romans and Spartans, and that's all right. Because I mean, a lot of more people now know a lot more about the Greek culture, not just the Spartans. There's other movies that came out, like the Immortals, that was really good. So you learn more about the gods and everything, and Titans. That's a word now that everybody know. A Titan, so that they're freaking out. So that's really good. But I think so far we got really, really good DLCs. I hope that the DLCs, they'll keep releasing maybe 3 nations at a time, not just one at a time, so that will give us more content to play, because eventually everybody's going to be playing the same campaigns over and over again. When a new DLC come out, we're all going to try it, and if it's only one nation, then, I'm not just talking about YouTube, but everybody playing Total War. I mean, if let's say they announce in December that they're releasing one DLC with only one faction on it, in December, everybody's going to play this faction. Yeah. Like, we're all going to play the same faction at the same time. So, So for me, I'm happy so far with what they're releasing, and I'm not gonna complain. Like I said, I'm not a super history buff. I'm interested in the history, but I'm really more into the games and the details and what they really put in it, and if the game is interesting and if I really get into it, because
for sure.
there's some historical games that are pretty freaking boring, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Even if they're super historical, that everything is really nice and well done, the game itself is not really good. So I prefer maybe if they leave some of that stuff, aside a little bit, and then concentrate on the game and the content and battles and what
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah.
experience with Rome 2.
Well, that's where I think CA excels above like anyone else in where they've found that balance between fun and historical accuracy, or
Right.
they call it authenticity.
Yeah,
But
that.
there's always gonna be people complaining that
Of
it's not
course, yeah,
historically
of
accurate.
course.
Always,
Yeah,
always.
yeah.
But
Like, I think I saw an argument on the Facebook page about the color system. I
Oh
mean,
gosh,
the
yeah.
simple fact is that, of course, the Romans weren't really that literally bright red, but they need it because you zoomed up, you got 1,000 people on the screen. You need to be able to differentiate units quickly. I'm trying to add two pieces of info. Apparently, the nomadic pack will have their own culture as well. The nomadic tribes,
Oh, great.
bringing a new culture. That's not confirmed, but that's just what is going around there. And I was going to say something else there. I completely blanked out. Something about the Seleucids. Yeah, something about the Seleucids. I was going to put what I think quickly in there. I think personally the Seleucids is going to be an amazing uh, faction to play as, because I think I was talking to you about this before, Cyril, about Pontus, like a Hellenistic
right.
Eastern mix.
Dear God,
Whereas
yeah.
whereas you got Seleucids, which is like the ultimate hybrid, where it's like Romanized Hellenistic Eastern like culture, and
Right.
they've got legionary units as well as phalanx, and to top it off, they've got cataphracts and elephants.
Cataphracts, yeah.
I mean, the Seleucids, I think, were the ones to field the most elephants of all time in one battle against Ptolemy. So, it's going to be awesome plays as Seleucids. But as for what I think they're going to do, like I've said this for a while, I think they might go for a campaign. If you guys have played the Alexander DLC for Rome 1, where it was like Greece but zoomed in. I mean, like that part of it, then it goes into Persia, sorry. Like zoomed in though. So you have, and I mean, a good example is the Spanish
Peninsula campaign.
the Peninsula campaign. Yeah, yeah. So instead of just the two parts, which is like, what is it, like
Right.
Gibraltar, then the rest, it's like zoomed in, so you have all the little areas. That's what I think. I personally think they're going to do that for an area. My one,
Maybe
what
they'll
I
do
want,
that for like for Gaul or something. Maybe like Julius Caesar, Julius Caesar
that's
campaign
what I'm
sort of thing,
thinking. Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. I'm thinking
Mhm.
like that, or Hannibal's, or
Or
is it
Hannibal, yeah.
Hannibal or Hannibal throughout Spain. Or but my one I want to see would be the Peloponnesian Wars, would be probably the
Yes,
best,
yeah.
between Sparta and Athens and everyone else, and that would be epic. But that's what I think what they'll do. One other thing I've got to say really quickly is, though this podcast isn't focused on it, there is going to be modding, so that's just a whole nother layer of shit we're going to be able to get. So I think it's going to be interesting to see CA, kind of try to keep up with. That's why I think maybe will they. I don't want to like sound like they're trying to be like spies or anything, but they kind of want to stem the flow of how well we can mod Rome 2, because Third Age completely outdid anything they've released.
Oh my god! Imagine Third Age on the Rome 2 engine.
So I
Oh.
mean,
That's like my dream right there.
Cyril probably hates that idea. You have to do that shit.
I don't want to talk about it.
You've done so much of it already.
Ugh.
But that's I mean, I kind of think maybe if they're kind of worried about what people can end up releasing, because I think we all agree like Third Age really outdoes anything they've released in terms of support for a game.
Mhm.
Mm.
And they've got other things, and I think modding is going to be a massive thing. But yeah, we'll talk to you now, Saf, about what you think about the factions that have been announced and what you think they'll announce and what they'll do with it.
What, in terms of DLC? Sorry.
Yeah,
The,
just all
like,
DLC.
Future announcements. Okay.
Yeah.
For me, I think it's probably the one I'm most excited about with the DLC factions that are being released is probably going to be the Seleucids, just because of all the points that you brought up about how it's basically just a hybrid of all like multicultures and everything like that. And also it's got that sort of that Greek side to things, because where Coldmeat says he's not very much the sort of historical side of, I'm very much the ancient side of things. So ancient Greece is like my era of choice, so that's why I'm doing like an Athens series when it starts. So for me the Seleucids is the one I'm looking forward to the most, but I think sort of for future DLCs, pretty much what we said about how they're going to zoom in on the maps and pick out a certain area and do like a campaign there. So like the Peninsula campaign, but maybe somewhere like Gaul or in Greece for a specific era of time or something like that. Or as was brought up earlier as well, maybe like almost like a barbarian invasion version, but for Rome 2. Is probably what they'll end up doing as well eventually, I imagine. Whether it be a DLC or whether it be an expansion or something, I don't know. Like a standalone expansion. But I think I'm looking forward to like how you're bringing up like modding as well. So very interested to see if anything comes up with that. But yeah, Seleucus is probably my faction of choice. I'm quite happy with the barbarian choices as well, but I'm in the original Rome, I didn't really play that many barbarian packs or anything like that. I didn't really focus on that side. I was very much set on one side of things, so I don't have a lot of experience with the barbarian factions. So actually, I suppose this would give me a good opportunity to expand a bit and have a look into them. But yeah, Seleucus is my first choice.
Well, yeah, for sure. I think maybe the barbarians were kind of like a side note in the original Rome. I think,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
much more focused on the Greeks. I mean, obviously just Rome, all up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to be an awesome time to see the barbarians do their thing in Rome too. But you just brought up one thing there. Do you guys think? I know some people classify expansions as DLC. I kind of differentiate them in some sense.
I mean, you can get some expansions that are they are expansions, but they're classified as DLCs.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Or vice versa. But if it's a standalone, if it's something you have to buy, if you want it on disc, you have to buy on disc. And it's a standalone. Then it's an expansion to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if they release something on Steam that's like, if you buy this and it produces like its own separate icon, it's an expansion. Even if it's labeled as a DLC, it's an expansion.
For sure. So that's
To me anyway.
Yeah. That's probably like the last question I'm going to ask you guys. Do you think they're going to do like a full-blown expansion, or they'll do what a lot of the other companies are doing, where a lot of small content? I mean, they're showing that now that they're doing a lot of small content, but so they did the same thing with Shogun. Then they did For the Samurai, which was a complete twist on what most people they went back in technology, then they went forward again, and they went back with Rise of Samurai. So, what do you guys think is the probability of like a massive expansion for?
It
Rome
wouldn't
2?
surprise me, to be honest. I mean, I'd be quite interested to see if, because Rome 2 is going to be a massive game, and then they're doing all this little small content. So it wouldn't surprise me if they then did a massive expansion and then small additional piece of content for that expansion.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have
if they did like one
I'm
big
sure
thing,
we'll have
small
Fall
thing,
of Rome.
big thing, small. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have the fall of Rome with the the late troops and everything. They're just gonna be adding a lot more to that. So I think that's definitely, like, you ask the percentage here at 100%. I'm sure they'll be coming up with something big.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, you just have to think that they have such a length of time to work with here, that there's so much that they could toss in, and I'm really hoping that they milk this absolutely dry. I mean, I want to do whatever they can. And I will see you later, man.
Alright,
Sorry,
continue to
guys.
talk. Yeah.
I gotta go. You guys keep talking, and make sure you subscribe also to the Total War podcast. We'll do more in the future, all right?
Sir.